Before we continue onwards to write our code and to use the SAP2000 API, we first need to have a look at the API documentation. As with pretty much any other API, the SAP2000 API has a documentation file that details how it can be used, how to call its functions, and other considerations about its use. So, let's have a look at the SAP2000 API documentation. If you have any version of SAP2000 installed on your computer, you can go to this PC, which is your base folder, then go to your SAP installation folder, which, by default, should be in the C drive. Then go to Program Files, not the x86, the normal one. Then Computers and Structures. Now, if you have other CSI products installed, they will also appear here. Each CSI product has its own API with its own documentation. However, these are all extensions of a more generic CSI API that works on all CSI products. So, you can technically write code that uses the SAP2000 API, but it could also be valid for ETABS or CSIBridge if you don't use functions that are specific to the SAP2000 API. We won't use this general CSI API because we're focusing on SAP2000 on this course, but these concepts will remain relevant if you want to use its functionalities or any of the other product-specific CSI APIs. Anyway, we can go to the SAP2000 folder, and we'll scroll down to find the CSI OAPI documentation file. This file is included when you install SAP2000. If you can't find it, then you may need to reinstall SAP2000. Let's open the file. We'll be looking at this quite a lot during this course. Learning how to use an API means being ready to dive into its documentation. As you can see, we have several items on the list on the left. Most of what we'll use will be in the CSI API functions item. If we click the plus sign or double-click, we can see various sublists of functions that deal in different facets of the SAP2000 environment. If you want a somewhat detailed starting example, you can also open the example code item and you can see there's a list of different code examples for various languages, of which the first is VBA. If you're short on time, you can have a look at this example and try to infer the functioning of this code, although we won't be reviewing it further, as just examining this template won't be enough for us to start producing useful code. Going back to the CSI API functions item, let's open the general functions item. Here we'll find some of the most important functions and objects we'll be using on this course. First, we have the helper functions. The helper functions act mostly as a way to communicate from VBA to the SAP2000 API and to request a SAP2000 object or to get the API version. This will be our first step to using the API successfully. Next, we have the SAP object functions. You can think of the SAP object as the actual SAP2000 program. We'll be using this mostly to launch and terminate our SAP2000 program and to extract our SAP2000 model object. Last, but not least, we have the SAP model functions. This, arguably, will be the most important out of all these, as the SAP model object will be our main way of manipulating what goes on in SAP2000 by adding, removing, and editing objects, groups, sections, and everything else contained in a SAP2000 model.